Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Political Science with Charushil. Today, we are going to begin with our preparation for CUET Political Science undergrad level. If you have seen the syllabus has two parts. Part A deals with politics in India since independence, and it has 9 subsections. Part B deals with contemporary world politics, and it has 7 subsections. What is my aim for you guys? We are going to complete the entire syllabus of political science CUET undergrad level in 50 videos, which will include previous year question papers and more MCQs practice tests. So without wasting any more time, let's begin. All right, so this first video is about politics in India since independence, subsection 2, all right, the nation building process and its problems. Now, the newly independent state, which is India, had 3 major challenges. First, we had to shape a nation that was united, yet accommodative of the diversity within society. How was integration of territories of India to be achieved? How should we do it? Ye kaise hoga? Challenge number 2, to establish democracy, and this democracy is not only procedural democracy, but it also has to be substantive in nature, which means a democratic constitution is necessary but not sufficient for establishing a democracy. The real challenge was to develop democratic practices in accordance with the constitution. And the third major long-term challenge was to ensure the development and well-being of the entire society and not only of some sections of the society, with major targets being economic development of the country and eradication of poverty. All right, now these were the long-term challenges. But what were the immediate challenges for this newly independent state? There were 3 immediate challenges. Challenge number 1, territorial and administrative integration of princely states. There were 565 princely states. How should they be integrated to form a new nation called India? Second, communal riots that accompanied partition. And third, rehabilitation of refugees who migrated from Pakistan. So our target in this video is to make sure that all these 3 immediate challenges are covered. Look at this quotation by Nehru. Nehru said in 1947, first things must come first, and the first thing is the security and stability of India. The year is 1947. Let's see what the prominent voices of independence had to say. Muhammad Ali Jinnah, who was giving a presidential address in the Constituent Assembly of Pakistan at Karachi on 11th August 1947, which is a few days before independence, he said, we should begin to work in that spirit, and in course of time all these angularities of the majority and the minority communities, the Hindu community and the Muslim community, because even as regards Muslims, you have Pathans, Punjabis, Shias, Sunnis and so on. And among the Hindus, you have Brahmins, Vaishnavas, Khatris, Bengalis, Madrasis and so on, will vanish. You are free. You are free to go to your temples. You are free to go to your mosques or to any other place of worship in this state of Pakistan. You may belong to any religion or caste or creed that has nothing to do with the business of state. Let's see what Mahatma Gandhi had to say. On 14th August 1947, he was in Kolkata. He was trying to subdue the communal riots which were going on there. He said, tomorrow we shall be free from the slavery of British domination, but at midnight India will be partitioned. Tomorrow will thus be a day of rejoicing as well as mourning. He was really sad, as you can see. What did Jawaharlal Nehru had to say? I have picked up 2 speeches. Let's begin with the tryst with the destiny speech of 14 August 1947, midnight. He says, long years ago we made a tryst with destiny, and now the time comes when we shall redeem our pledge, not wholly or in full measure, but very substantially. At the stroke of the midnight hour, when the world sleeps, India will awake to life and freedom. A moment comes, which comes but rarely in history, when we step out from the old to the new, when an age ends and when the soul of a nation long suppressed finds utterance. And on a few months after this, which is 15th October 1947, when he wrote a letter to some chief ministers, he said, "We have a Muslim minority who are so large in numbers that they cannot, even if they want, go anywhere else. This is a basic fact about which there can be no argument. Whatever the provocation from Pakistan and whatever the indignities and horrors inflicted on non-Muslims there, we have got to deal with this minority in a civilized manner, which is within India. We must give them security and the rights of citizens in a democratic state. If we fail to do so, we shall have a festering sore, which will eventually poison the whole body politic and probably destroy it." So you can see there are three prominent voices and all three had different things to say during that time. Partition and the two nations theory. How did the two nations theory come up? First thing, formation of Muslim League in the year 1906. Why was the Muslim League created? It was created to protect Muslim political interests, demand separate representation for Muslims, and to negotiate with the British government for a separate Muslim political identity. Second, the Indian Council Act of 1909, also known as Morley Minto reforms, what did it bring? It brought forth separate electorates for Muslims. That means the Muslim community could now vote separately for electing its own Muslim representatives. Third, Muhammad Iqbal in the year 1930 gave an address in Allahabad where he proposed the idea of a separate Muslim state in the northwestern part of India. And he said, "I would like to see the Punjab, Northwest Frontier Province, Sindh and Baluchistan amalgamated into a single state." But the idea, the term Pakistan was coined in the year 1933 in a pamphlet called Now or Never, written by Chaudhry Rahmat Ali, who was studying in the University of Cambridge that time. And he said, Pakistan, which is the land of the pure, should be represented by 5 regions, which is Punjab, Afghania, Kashmir, Sindh and Baluchistan. I will show you a map after this. And fifth development, you have the Lahore resolution, which was passed by the Muslim League in the year 1940. And the main demand was independent states in Muslim majority areas of northwestern and eastern regions of India. Let's have a look at the map. This is an AI generated map of Chaudhry Rahmat Ali idea of Pakistan, of the 5 regions of Pakistan. And he said, if you combine Punjab with Afghania, which is the northwest frontier province, with Kashmir and Sindh and Baluchistan, we would get a new state called Pakistan, which will be a Muslim majority state. Finally, we reach the two nations theory. Muhammad Ali Jinnah became the strongest advocate of the two nations theory in the 1940s. In one of his speeches on 22nd March 1940, he said, Hindus and Muslims belong to two different religious philosophies, social customs and literature. They neither intermarry nor interdine together, and indeed they belong to two different civilizations. We are a nation with our own distinctive culture and civilization. But Mahatma Gandhi was opposed to this idea. He said, my whole soul rebels against the idea that Hinduism and Islam represent two antagonistic cultures and doctrines. Some facts. You have Khan Abdul Ghaffar Khan, who was an undisputed leader of the Northwest Frontier Province and also known as Frontier Gandhi. And he was staunchly opposed to the idea of the two nations theory. But eventually his voice was subdued and the Northwest Frontier Province was merged with Pakistan. Another fact, you have two Muslim majority provinces of British India, which is Punjab and Bengal, who also had large areas with non-Muslim majority. So it was therefore decided that these two specific provinces would be bifurcated according to the religious majority at the district or the local level. Therefore, eventually you had East Bengal and West Bengal. This is how the division happened. Have a look at this map. The Partition of India map 1947. Look at this. On the west side, you have West Pakistan, a combination of Northwest Frontier Province, Punjab, Baluchistan and Sindh. And East Punjab was joined into India. and on the east side you have East Pakistan, which is basically East Bengal. All right. And in 1971 it got separated and a new state was created, which is Bangladesh. The final partition plan was drawn by Lord Mountbatten, and therefore it is known as the Mountbatten Plan. Now the boundaries between India and Pakistan were drawn by Sir Cyril Radcliffe, and they are known as the Radcliffe Lines. The provinces most affected by partition were Punjab and Bengal. I have already told you this. Bengal was divided into East Bengal and West Bengal. Punjab was divided into West Punjab and East Punjab. What was happening in India on 15th August 1947? What was going on during the partition time? Mahatma Gandhi did not participate in any of the Independence Day celebrations. He was in Kolkata at that time, and he was deeply saddened by the communal violence which was happening there. But it was because of his presence that the communal riots in Kolkata greatly improved. After that, next month he moved to Delhi, where there was large-scale violence in Delhi. All right. His steadfast pursuit of Hindu-Muslim unity provoked Hindu extremists so much that they made several attempts to assassinate him. And finally, on 30th January 1948, Nathuram Vinayak Godse walked up to him during one of his prayer meetings and fired 3 bullets at him, killing him instantly. Thus ended a lifelong struggle for truth, non-violence, justice, and tolerance. After this, what happened? The government of India cracked down heavily on organizations that were spreading communal hatred within the nation, and organizations like RSS were banned for some time. Resettlement or rehabilitation of refugees. There were nearly 6 million refugees who had migrated to India post-partition. While nearly all Hindus and Sikhs from Pakistan had migrated in one go, which is in 1947, a large number of them in East Bengal that time had stayed back for the initial years of 1947 and 48. But as communal riots broke out periodically in East Bengal, there was a steady flow of refugees moving into India year after year till the year 1971, and Bangladesh was formed. Most of the refugees from West Pakistan got settled in Punjab, Uttar Pradesh, Himachal Pradesh, Haryana, Delhi, and Rajasthan. But this was not the case in West Bengal. The refugees from East Bengal could only settle in West Bengal or some parts of Assam or Tripura. Let me show you a map regarding this. Now, have a look at this refugee settlement map, 1947. So after partition in 1947, nearly 6 million refugees migrated to India from West Pakistan and East Pakistan. So look over here, you have West Pakistan. Refugees are migrating from West Pakistan to Punjab, to Delhi, to Haryana, to Rajasthan, to Uttar Pradesh, and to Himachal Pradesh. And from East Pakistan, what is happening? Refugees are migrating to West Bengal, to Assam, to Tripura, and some parts of Bihar and other nearby areas. Now, we are going to discuss Jawaharlal Nehru's views on communalism and communism. Now, on communalism, these are the 4 things I want you to focus on. First, in October 1947, he said that communalism is the Indian version of fascism. The wave of fascism which is gripping India now is the direct outcome of hatred for the non-Muslims, which the Muslim League preached among its followers for years. The League accepted the ideology of fascism from the Nazis of Germany. The ideas and methods of fascists organizations are now gaining popularity among the Hindus also, and the demand for the establishment of a Hindu state is its clear manifestation. So basically he's trying to tell us what happened because of Muslim League against non-Muslims. In Pakistan, it is the same thing is happening in India against Muslims. He carried out massive campaigns against communalism through public speeches, radio broadcasts, parliament speeches, private letters, and epistles to chief ministers. He repeatedly declared, no state can be civilized except a secular state. So for him, only a secular state is a civilized state. Now, in the year 1949, he was giving a talk in which he described the idea of a Hindu Raj as that mad idea. And in the 1950s, he gave a speech and he said, ours is a secular state. Here every Muslim should feel that he is an Indian citizen and has equal rights as an Indian citizen. If we cannot make him feel like this, we shall not be worthy of our heritage and our country. And on Gandhiji's birthday in the year 1951, he said, if any person raises his hand to strike down another on the ground of religion, I shall fight him till the last breath of my life, both as the head of the government and from outside. So these are his views on communalism in the country. What about communism? The CPI began a general revolution against the Nehru government, claiming that it was nothing but an agent of imperialism and semi-feudal forces. It began in February 1948 and continued till 51. Nehru resisted banning the part then and even allowed it to participate in the general elections of 1951 and 52. So Nehru never banned them, okay, till that time. In the letter to R.K. Karanjia in the year 1964, he said, now between the parties of the right and the left, as you differentiate them, I would always prefer a party with some ideology built around serious social and economic thinking, basically Communist Party. You mentioned the communists. The communists, with all their faults, function in terms of serious economic solutions. What we repudiate is all the dogma and the violence of their approach. If they can divest themselves to this obsession and accept the discipline of our parliamentary democracy in good faith, there is not much difference between their goal of socialism and ours. The other parties you mentioned, like the Jansangh and Swatantra Party, seemed to be organized around plainly fascists and feudal concepts without any social or economic basis. As such, they are dangerous to the country and our values of democracy and socialism. Basically, he's trying to tell us that if he had to move either towards the left party or the right, he would always favor the left one. He would be in favor of communism. Okay. Having discussed the problem, that is the partition and the resettlement or the rehabilitation of refugees, we are now moving to the second major challenge, which is integration of princely states. Now, British India was divided into British Indian provinces and princely states. The British Indian provinces were directly under the control of the British government. While on the other hand, your princely states, they enjoyed some form of autonomy in terms of control over internal affairs of their state, as long as they accepted British supremacy. And this acceptance of British supremacy by them was called paramountcy or suzerainty. This means that the princely states were not fully independent or fully autonomous, but accepted British supremacy in three major areas, which is defense, foreign affairs, and communication. In return, rulers retained their internal autonomy. This is how the two worked. This is how the British Indian provinces worked and how princely states worked. Now, the princely states covered 1/3 of the land area of British India Empire. Okay, and there were approximately 565 princely states during that time. Just before independence, it was announced by the British that with the end of their rule over India, their paramountcy of the British crown over princely states would also lapse. This meant that all these states would become legally independent now. The British government took the view that all these states were free to join either India or Pakistan or remain independent. And this decision was left not to the people but to the princely states or the princely rulers to decide. Now, many of the large princely states, by the way, they began to dream of an independent status and they started scheming for it. Rulers of several states claimed that they would become independent, that is not joining either India or Pakistan, and from 15 August 1947 onwards. This is what they claimed. In this, they got full encouragement from Muhammad Ali Jinnah, who publicly said the states would be independent sovereign states on the termination of paramountcy, free to remain independent if they so desired. So we just saw what Jinnah said. Now let's see what the Indian nationalist leaders had to say. They vehemently rejected the claim of independence of any princely states, fearing it would thwart the idea of unity of free India. Therefore, the only two options now available for the princely states were either acceding to India or to Pakistan on the basis of 2 points. First, contiguity of its territory, whether it's nearby, whether it's sharing borders with that region, and wishes of the people. What do the people think? With some states showing realism and patriotism, they joined the Constituent Assembly of India in 1947. But some larger princely states like Bhopal, Travancore, and Hyderabad, they publicly announced their desire for an independent status. Now, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel took additional charge of the newly created States Department in India with VP Menon as his secretary, and both of them set out to tackle the problem of these recalcitrant states. He said what? The situation held dangerous potentialities, and that if we did not handle it promptly and effectively, our hard-earned freedom might disappear through the state's door. So he was really cautious as to how are we going to join these princely states into India. Now in 1935, which is a few years before independence, through the Government of India Act, the concept of instrument of accession, wherein a ruler of a princely state could accede his kingdom into the Federation of India, was introduced. This is called instrument of accession. The federation concept was initially opposed by the Indian princes, but it is believed that they came around to its acceptance by the beginning of the Second World War. In 1945, the British finalized their plans for leaving India, and the Indian Independence Act of 1947 provided that the suzerainty of the British Crown over the princely states would simply be terminated, effective from 15th August 1947. So before 15 August 1947, peaceful negotiations had brought almost all the states whose territories were contiguous to the new boundaries of India into the Indian Union. The rulers of most of the states signed a document which I just talked about, which is the Instrument of Accession, which meant that their state agreed to become a part of the Indian Union in matters of defense, foreign affairs, and communication. This is what the Instrument of Accession was all about, that you can take care of your internal matters, but defense, foreign affairs, and communication will now be controlled by the Union of India, leaving out domestic affairs to the respective states. So accession of the princely states of Junagadh, Hyderabad and Kashmir and Manipur also proved more difficult than the rest, and we will see these cases individually. But before that, I want you to have a look at the document of Instrument of Accession. This is the document of the Instrument of Accession. As you can see, Instrument of Accession of, over here comes the name of the princely state. Okay. Now therefore I, name of the ruler over here, ruler of, name of the princely state, in the exercise of my sovereignty in and over my said state, do hereby exercise this my Instrument of Accession, and over here they read all these clauses and they sign it, given under my hand on this day of August 1947. And this schedule was attached to the Instrument of Accession, and I just mentioned in the previous slide, three things, which is defense, external affairs, and communications were now under the control of the Federation of India. So you can pause this video and have a closer look. Let's talk about the Iron Man of India. The main architects of integration of princely states into India were two people, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel and VP Menon. And Patel was in charge of not only the State Department, the newly created State Department, but he was the first Deputy Prime Minister and also the Home Minister of the interim government. Now we all know that the interim government took a firm stance against the possible division of India into small principalities. So Patel played a historic role in negotiating with the rulers of princely states firmly but diplomatically, and bringing most of them together into the Indian Union. It may look easy now, but it was a very complicated task which required skillful persuasion. Just look at this. 26 small states formed today's India's Orissa. All right. Saurashtra region of Gujarat had 14 big states and 119 small states, and all had to be persuaded in order to be joined into the Indian Union. Now there is this letter which Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel wrote in the year 1947 to the princely rulers, and it said, "We are at a momentous stage in the history of India. By common endeavor, we can raise the country to new greatness, while lack of unity will expose us to unexpected calamities. I hope the Indian states will realize fully that if we do not cooperate and work together in the greater interest, anarchy and chaos will overwhelm us all, great and small, and lead us to total ruin. This is his way of convincing the princely rulers that please accede to India. We have already discussed princely states in India in detail, so I would recommend that you pause the video over here and just have a close look at this map and all the details which have been shared over here with you. Out of the 565 princely states, 562 were easily incorporated into India through the efforts of Patel and VP Menon. Most states joined peacefully, while many joined under the fear of either rising people's movements or Patel's reputation for firmness and ruthlessness. However, there were three major states which resisted, and they were Hyderabad, Junagadh, and Kashmir, and we are going to discuss them in detail. Here is a map. You can pause the video and have a closer look at the map of the three difficult states. The first difficult state, Junagadh. So Junagadh was a princely state ruled by Muhammad Mahabad Khan III, a ruler who was governing nearly 80% of Hindu population. Now, despite being geographically surrounded by India and having no territorial contiguity with Pakistan, the Nawab decided to accede to Pakistan, and Muhammad Ali Jinnah even accepted the accession on 13 December 1947. Now, Nehru and Patel strongly opposed the accession because Junagadh had no land connection with Pakistan and its population was majoritarily Hindu. A provisional government called Arzi Hukumat was formed under Samaldas Gandhi. Who was Samaldas Gandhi? He was a nephew of Mahatma Gandhi. So a provisional government was formed under him, and it was formed to oppose Nawab's decision. India supported economic and political pressure on Junagadh, including blockades, and administrative intervention and local revolts. To force the Nawab of Junagadh to change his decision, the provincial government, which is Arzi Hukumat, and the volunteer forces in the surrounding regions of Kathiawar implemented a blockade. But India will later deny that there was even a blockade on its part. The blockade compelled the state's ruler to leave for Pakistan, who left the state administration under his prime minister or diwan known as Shah Nawaz Bhutto. Menon claimed that the Nawab had delegated the state's destiny to Bhutto, which is not implausible because it was primarily Shah Nawaz Bhutto's idea that Junagadh should accede to Pakistan under the influence of Jinnah. Indian forces entered Junagadh in November 1947 and India took administrative control of the state. A plebiscite was held in February 1948 which showed that nearly 99.95% of the votes were in favor of joining India, acceding to India. Therefore, Junagadh became a part of India through plebiscite. After 6 months administration by the government of India, 3 civilian members, which is Samaldas Gandhi, Daya Shankar Dave, and Pushpa Ben Mehta, were inducted for the administration of Junagadh on 1st June 1948. The election of the 7 constituencies of Junagadh for the Constituent Assembly of Saurashtra was declared in December 1948. All 7 members of Indian National Congress were elected unopposed and they all voted to merge Junagadh state with Saurashtra state. The merger was completed in January 1949 and on November 1956, Saurashtra state was merged with Bombay state. Bombay state was split into the linguistic states of Gujarat and Maharashtra in 1960 and Junagadh district is now one of the districts of Gujarat. So this is what happened. The second difficult state, Kashmir. The Maharaj of Kashmir, Hari Singh, was a Hindu, while nearly 75% of the population in Kashmir was Muslim. Fearing democracy in India and communalism in Pakistan, he decided to accede to neither of the two dominions. The Indian political leaders and the political forces within Kashmir, which is the national conference under Sheikh Abdullah, they wanted the people of Kashmir to decide via plebiscite. But in October, several Pathan tribesmen from Pakistan, they led unofficially by the Pakistani armed forces, invaded and captured parts of Kashmir. The Maharaja appealed to India for military assistance and subsequently acceded to India. While the matter was later raised before UNSC, but it, guided by Britain and US, decided to perceive the Kashmir question as the Indian-Pakistan dispute issue. This resulted in a ceasefire and territorial divisions along the new ceasefire line. Nehru expressed his disappointment in a letter to Vijay Lakshmi Pandit in the year 1948, and he said, "I could not imagine that the Security Council could possibly behave in a trivial and a partisan manner in which it functioned. These people are supposed to keep the world in order. It is not surprising that the world is going to pieces. The United States and Britain have played a dirty role, Britain probably being the chief actor behind the scenes." So he was really unhappy with how the UNSC tackled the whole situation. The third and the final difficult state, which is Hyderabad. So Hyderabad was the largest and the richest princely state in India. It included present-day Telangana, parts of Maharashtra and Karnataka. The ruler, which is Nizam Mir Osman Ali Khan, was considered one of the richest men in the world that time. Although nearly 85% of the population was Hindu, the administration, army, police and large landholdings were dominated by the Muslims. The Nizam refused to join either India or Pakistan and declared Hyderabad as an independent sovereign state. The Indian leaders saw this as a dangerous issue because Hyderabad lay in the center of India. An independent Hyderabad could encourage other princely states to separate and further weaken Indian unity. Now, the organization Majlis-e-Ittihadul Muslimini became increasingly influential 1926 onwards. Under Qasim Rizvi, it formed a paramilitary force called the Razakars. The Razakars supported Islamic political supremacy in Hyderabad and opposed Hyderabad's merger with India, carried weapons and organized militias, terrorized villages, and political opponents attacked Hindus and moderated Muslims. At their peak, the Razakars reportedly numbered nearly 2 lakh irregular fighters. Their violent activities created panic in neighboring Indian provinces and deepened communal tensions. At the same time, Hyderabad faced the Telangana rebellion. Beginning in 1946, communist-led peasants revolted against landlords, jagirdars, and the Nizam's feudal system. The Nizam's government could not fully suppress the revolt, so India feared that Hyderabad might turn into a center of communist instability in South India. In November 1947, Hyderabad signed a standstill agreement with India. This temporarily maintained existing administrative arrangements while negotiations continued. However, relations quickly deteriorated. India accused Hyderabad of importing arms and ammunition and encouraging anti-India activities. Hyderabad accused India of imposing economic blockade. Border clashes and raids increased, railway disruptions and armed infiltration occurred. So Patel made it clear that India would not tolerate an isolated spot which would destroy the very union which we have built up with our blood and toil. This was him making reference to Hyderabad during that time. So with the death of Muhammad Ali Jinnah on 11 September 1948, fears of Pakistani intervention subsided. India finally decided on military action. On 13 September 1948, India launched Operation Polo, officially called a police action. About 35,000 Indian troops participated, and Hyderabad had around 22,000 regular troops that time, plus Razakars. The operation was commanded by Jayanto Nath Chaudhary. Indian forces attacked from multiple directions, especially from Solapur and Vijayawada. The Indian Army used tanks, armored vehicles, infantry, brigades, air support through Hawker Tempest aircraft. The operation lasted only 5 days. Hyderabad's forces were poorly coordinated and could not resist India's organized military assault. Several towns including Naldarg, Osmanabad, Aurangabad, Suryapet and Bidar fell rapidly to Indian troops. And on 17 September 1948, the Nizam announced a ceasefire. Major General Syed Ahmad L. Edrus formally surrendered to the Indian Army. Hyderabad officially acceded to India afterward. Despite the defeat, the Nizam was retained ceremonially for many years as Raj Pramukh, which is constitutional head of Hyderabad state, and was given a privy purse of 5 million and permitted to keep most of the immense wealth to himself. Before the surrender, Hyderabad appealed to the United Nations as well, arguing that India had invaded an independent state. Hyderabad requested international intervention. India responded that Hyderabad was not an independent sovereign country and the internal lawlessness and Razakars' violence justified intervention. After Hyderabad's surrender, the complaint was withdrawn and the issue disappeared from the UN agenda. One of the most controversial aspects of Operation Polo was the communal violence that followed. Prime Minister Nehru appointed the Sundar Lal Committee to investigate into this matter. The report estimated around 30,000 to 40,000 deaths. Some later estimates went up as high as 2 lakhs. In 1956, Hyderabad state was reorganized linguistically. Telugu-speaking regions were joined to Andhra Pradesh, Marathi-speaking regions were joined to Bombay, later Maharashtra, and Kannada-speaking regions were joined to Mysore state, later Karnataka. Our last slide, which is the second stage of integration. The second stage of integration of princely states began in December 1947, where many smaller states were either merged with the other neighboring states or they were brought together to form centrally administered areas. A large number were consolidated into 5 new unions, which were Madhya Bharat, Rajasthan, Patiala, East Punjab States Union, PEPSU, and Saurashtra and Travancore Cochin. In return for their surrender of power and authority, rulers of major states were given privy purses in perpetuity, free of all taxes. These amounted to rupees 4.66 crore in 1949 and were later guaranteed by the Constitution. They were also allowed succession to the Gaddi, keeping their titles, flying personal flags, and gun salutes on ceremonial occasions. Lastly, the French-owned territories in the east coast, which is Pondicherry, and the Portuguese-owned territory in the west coast, which is Daman and Diu and Goa, were gradually handed over to India by 1954 and 1961 respectively. The latter one happened after a violent military attack, which is fight with Indian troops. I have 2 maps to share with you. Let's look at those maps. If we look at this map of the second stage of integration of princely states, we can see a timeline as to how they were consolidated and how they formed the Indian Union. So over here you see 15th July 1948, Patiala and the East Punjab States Union, which included states of former Patiala state, East Punjab states and related states. Then we have Rajasthan Union formed on 18 March 1948. Then we have Madhya Bharat Union formed on 28th May 1948, then Saurashtra Union 15th Feb 1948, and lastly Travancore Cochin Union on 1st July 1949. You can pause this video and have a closer look at this map. Our last map is about the French and Portuguese territories in India. So the French territories were established during 17th century, which is the 1600s, and these territories were gradually handed over to India in the year 1954. The 5 French settlements were, we have Pondicherry, then Karaikal in Tamil Nadu, then Mahe in Kerala, then Yanam in Andhra Pradesh, and then Chandler Nagar in West Bengal. And the Portuguese territories were primarily in Goa and Daman and Diu. Alright, and these On 18th December 1961, India launched a military operation to liberate Goa and Daman and Diu. After a brief but intense operation, Portuguese forces surrendered on 19th December 1961. Goa, Daman and Diu were then integrated into India. You can pause and have a closer look. And thank you everyone. This was our first video for CUET Political Science, and I will be coming up with more videos, 49 more to go. All right. Have a great day. Bye everyone.